Hello there, this is Space Marine 2112. I decided to do another one tonight. Try to do one or two of these a week, and I'm like, you know what? Another one of my favorite bands I just gotta do is Electric Light Orchestra, old ELO. And so I've decided to go through now and try to rank these off the cuff too, because that's how I do it. Gotta make it fun for myself, you know? It's like a competition. So anyway, ELO, their core lineup, you got Jeff Lynne. Obviously, they've had him the entire time. Then you got Roy Wood, who was on the first album. They used to be together in a group called The Move with Bev Bevan, which is the drummer during the core period of ELO, which I think he's a fantastic drummer. You got Richard Tandy, who was with them most of their career. And then they've had some cello and violinists throughout the times, especially during their earlier period. And then there was a lot of spin offs, like the Orchestra or ELO Part 2. We're not going to be doing those today because they really do not sound the same or factor into the ELO album ranking that we got here. They're not bad, but they're not nearly what is going on here. So we're going to start here and try to rank these as best as we can. I will be honest, some of the newer albums here I don't like quite as much. It's Jeff Lynne, and I think Richard Tandy helped on a few of these. They're just not quite the same as the earlier stuff, obviously. They're not bad. They're pleasant. Dirty to the Bone on this first one, for instance. This is Alone in the Universe. When I was a boy, Dirty to the Bone. There's a couple decent songs on here. Fault Line, decent. Um, not an album that I go back to too much though. To be honest, they kind of lost it for me after a little bit, and I cannot in good conscience put this any higher than D. That being said, when they came out with their last album, and I think it is going to be their last album, From Out of Nowhere, I actually like some of the songs on here. I've got let's see. I always base it on what I've added to my playlist because I usually go through these albums. I do a deep dive, and then the ones that I've added are the ones that I've added, and then everything else I kind of forget about. So I have From Out of Nowhere, the title track. I thought that was a pretty good song. Losing You was a good one. One More Time's pretty good, and then they kind of um, wasn't that? No, it's Time of Our Life. When they're talking about when they played at Wembley, they actually have little bits of Telephone Line and some of their other songs in there, so that's kind of a nice throwback. Those four songs are the only ones that I think were pretty good off of this, but this album, for me, I tend to go back to those songs more often than I do anything from Alone in the Universe, so I gotta put a little bit ahead of that. But again, it is not the core material that we're going to be getting to. Um, Secret Messages. Okay, so a lot of people, when I watch people give tier rankings of this band, do not like this album. And to them, I say, what are you talking about? This is a great album. Um, well, actually, now that I look at all the songs I have on my playlist, I actually don't have as many as I thought. Okay. So the title track, Secret Messages, great. Bluebird, I really like a lot. Take Me On and On is a great one. Stranger's a great one. And then Four Little Diamonds is a great one. Rock and Roll is King is okay. Um, Everything else I did not add to my playlist. So obviously, I did not think as highly of it as I was just thinking in my mind. The thing is, I like Secret Messages so much, like the title track, as well as the songs I mentioned, that I kind of was thinking this album was higher up. But now that I'm looking at it again, I might have had that wrong. Okay, well, we're gonna put it. I like it better than Zoom and some of those that are coming up. I'm gonna put it at B, and we're gonna see what happens to it. Then we got Xanadu. Now, to be honest, I don't think this is on. No, it is. Okay, go to album. It is not all. It's mainly Olivia Newton-John. Electric Light Orchestra is on four of the songs. It looks like I wouldn't even really consider this an Electric Light Orchestra album. It kind of features them, in which there's some good songs. Like I like the All Over the World song that's on here. I don't even know if I've listened to I'm Alive, The Fall, and Don't Walk Away. The actual song Xanadu's pretty decent, and that's got Electric Light Orchestra and Olivia Newton-John. Um, Again, I wouldn't really say this is an ELO album though, but it's not bad. The ELO songs on it that I remember are not bad, so I cannot, in good conscience, put this. Well, it's not really an ELO album though. I should have added another tier that was like not really ELO. I probably come back to this. You know what? I probably come back to this about as much as From Out of Nowhere, to be honest. I mean, occasionally those songs come up on my playlist, but it is not an ELO album. So I don't even know why it's on there. I mean, I guess there's some singles on there from ELO, but it's a musical or a movie or whatever the heck. I've never even seen the movie. I care more about Xanadu from Rush than this. So yeah, I'm gonna put it down here just because it's not all ELO, so I can't really call it an ELO album. But I still listen to it more than Alone, and I kind of feel bad because I'm not gonna say Alone in the Universe is a bad album, but it's just not. It doesn't pop for me. Um, and then we got ELO Time, which is their last concept album, and you know what? I really do like this album. A lot of people, I mean, they're using electric strings at this time. Um, Not quite as good as their earlier albums. I think a lot of the album is good though. Prologue to Twilight is great, and then Twilight leads into Yours Truly, 2095, which is a really fast paced, like really cool song, I think. I like all the futuristic sounds and kind of setting of the whole thing. Ticket to the Moon is like kind of magical in the way that's set up. Kind of cool. The Way Life's Meant to Be is alright. It's not great though. Another they kind of have this rockabilly sound that comes back a lot, and I would almost say it's kind of similar to that, but it tries to have a lot of the electronics. I'm not crazy about that song. Another Heart Breaks and Rain is Falling, too kind of wussy for me. From the End of the World is a good song. The Lights Go Down, all right. And then Here Is the News and 21st Century Man, I think are great songs. Hold On Tight is all right. Again, it's kind of one of those just kind of straight ahead type of songs, and I like a little bit more complexity than that. And then I really like the epilogue. As a whole, I think the album really works. Is it is it El Dorado? No. Um, so I can't really put it way up there, but I'm gonna put it in B for now because I like pretty much most of the songs, and I think it's a really good concept album. Um, I mean, is there really any discussion that needs to go on here? Now, I'm going to be honest though. Okay, so you got Out of the Blue, and almost every single song is a hit or is killer off of here. Um, it's a couple of them that I actually might need to re-listen to again, like It's Over, Jungle, Sweet as the Night, Birmingham Blues, and Wild West Hero. I think I've heard them before, and they were pretty decent. But I don't have them on my playlist right now, so I might just have to re-listen to them again. Though it's a double album. My dad actually had the original one where it had like a paper, like you could make the spaceship in it. It's a really cool vinyl. And then you got Turn the Stone, which is one of my favorite songs. It's my friend's favorite song. This was how we kind of got into ELO. You got Sweet Talking Woman is great. Across the Border, Night in the City, Starlight, Believe Me Now, Steppin'. I mean, then you got the Rainy Days Suite, which is one of the greatest things they ever did. Standing in the Rain, Big Wheels, Summer and Lightning, Mr. Blue Sky, which everyone knows. The Whales, a really cool song. I mean, just as the peak that I think they would ever get to is like this album. And the few albums around it are also just fantastic, which we'll get to Face the Music here in a second. I think actually if you made this into a single album and took like the best songs off of it, I mean, there's just no beating it. I think in terms of the best single album, it's Face the Music, but we'll get to that in a second. Okay, but their second album, which, what is the name of the second album? I forgot the name of the second album even. Yeah, well, it's just the second album, Electric Light Orchestra too, that's why I couldn't remember the name. I think it's a cool album cover. I actually got this on vinyl pretty recently, and it has a completely different album cover. It's like a violin floating in the sky, and then the other side is like a light bulb on the ground with some people holding it. I think it's the band. I can't remember exactly. I'd have to pull it out again. So I don't know if that was like a European release or something, but I found it in an antique store, and I thought it was cool. I like every single song of this album. Is it as polished and refined as their later stuff? No. Is it more progressive than their later stuff? I would say yes. You got Old England Town Boogie number 2, Mama, Roll Over Beethoven, From the Sun to the World. What is it, Boogie number 1? Great song, love it. Kuyama, which has some like da, 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 like just some cool stuff in there. It's definitely a lot more classical and kind of progressive inspired. Again, it's not as mixed as well, I would say, and it doesn't sound quite as good as the later albums. But I like the prog aspect of it, man. Um, but I'm gonna let's see, is it gonna be 3 per row again? It's gonna be about 3 per row. So I'm just gonna jeez. See, this is what makes it difficult, and now I'm starting to think that this one's gonna go below. And I'm gonna probably put this up here because it's such a good album, but it's just not quite as refined as the later albums. So we'll figure out that position later. Face the Music does not have a bad song on it. It's the best single album that they have. You got Fire on High, which is a super proggy, heavy kind of opener. It's got some kind of creepy stuff going on at the beginning with the backwards speech. Something about like turn back, turn back. I mean, super cool. Um, and then you got Waterfall, amazing. Evil Woman, amazing. Knight Rider, Poker, Strange Magic, Down Hometown, and One Summer Dream, which is almost kind of like hauntingly beautiful, that one. I mean, there's just nothing bad on this album either. It's just classic hits and still got that kind of proggy sound, kind of some heaviness to it. The strings are still really coming out. Okay, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do this. Don't get mad at me. I'm only doing this, because this is a double album, and not every single song on this is A plus. Every single song on this is high A to A plus. This album, the songs that are A plus are the best, but it's not as concise. It's not quite as concise as this one. This one in a single record. I mean, they should have made this one a single record. Well, they should have made it into 2 single records, and one of them would have been up here, and the other one would have been like an A. But uh, depending on the day, I could go back and forth. But I gotta put in terms of a single record. I'm gonna put Face the Music first. They're so close. Anyway, I'm gonna move on because if I keep thinking about it, I'm gonna drive myself insane. Zoom. Okay, here. So Bevan and them leave the band. They form ELO 2. I don't know what kind of schism happened. I didn't really look into it, but there's like basically 15 years in between Balance of Power and this record. And to be honest, I've listened to this whole thing multiple times, and the only song I actually kind of like that sticks out to me is Ordinary Dream. I love Ordinary Dream. I've seen other people that are ranking these that don't even mention it. I don't get that. They mention other songs. I mean, the other songs, I mean, they're not memorable to me. I don't remember any of them. Some of them kind of, I mean, there's a song called Lonesome Lullaby. I mean, I was about to say they kind of put me to sleep. I mean, they're just not, it's not what they were putting out in their peak years, the golden years, I would say. So it's going to go down at the very bottom. I'm sorry, Ordinary Dream, well, you know what? Because there's nothing memorable in this. Ordinary Dream is the only thing that I remember from this album. And it's a great song, but I can't, I don't go back to it. I got to put them all down here in D, and I'll figure out, how many should go into each row later, and maybe move them around a little bit more. But that's just how I feel. Sorry for you people that like Zoom. Just not my album. Then we get to Discovery, and a lot of people give this crap because they kind of went into a disco phase. Again, I don't find a bad song on this album. Shine a Little Love is great. I actually like disco stuff. I'm going to do a Bee Gees ranking at some point because... and not to say Bee Gees is all disco. I like their earlier stuff as well. That's kind of like softer, more like mellow. Again, I kind of go through phases where sometimes I like really heavy stuff and sometimes I like really just light, relaxing, kind of peaceful, sitting on the deck with wine stuff. So it kind of really depends on the on the time of my life and what I'm feeling that night. But again, this is one of those albums, if I want like really upbeat, kind of dance-worthy type stuff, like at my wedding I had some of these songs from this album on it, this is a fantastic album. It's not going to go any lower than A, I'll tell you that much. I'll probably put it up here in A, and we'll see where these other ones go because, I mean, we're getting some good ones here. Shine a Little Love, Confusion, Need Her Love. Diary of Horace Wimp is actually kind of progressive, that song. Still got some of those elements to it. Last Train to London is great. Midnight Blue is kind of one of those I like the ones that have the keyboard, man. They're really good. On the Run, Wishing, I'm Wishing. That's a great song. Don't Bring Me Down, obviously. Everyone knows that song. Yeah, it's gonna go to A. It might even go to S. I'll just have to look at these other albums again. But yeah, I feel like it's a really good album. Almost spectacular. It's not quite up to the same level as these two because it is a little bit more disco-y. It's not as, progressive or kind of orchestral as these albums, but it's still a spectacular album. So I'm gonna put it there for now, and we'll see how it stacks up. Balance of Power. Um, I don't think it's as good as Secret Messages, but it does have Calling America on it, which is a great song. Heaven Only Knows is a great song, and then Getting to the Point is a good song. I don't have anything else off of this album on my playlist, and I don't really remember much else. Again, I was going to go through and re listen to these albums, but I already know I've done this in the past. I've gone through all these albums. I think it was about a year ago. I went through all these albums and went through song by song, like did a deep dive. That's what I do for all these bands. And those were the only three that stood out to me anyway. So I'm going to trust myself from a year ago, and I'm going to say that this is going to go below Secret Messages. Barely. Barely. They're very close. Almost have a similar number of songs that I added to my playlist, but I like the songs that I do like on Secret Messages. I think a little bit more. Though Calling America and Heaven Only Knows are great songs. So I can't really put them in D, but yeah, I mean they're more memorable than these albums. I'll say that. Um, so that's where that's gonna go. El Dorado is the last of what I would say is the early sound. Um, the more kind of progressive orchestrally sound that, I mean, again, Face the Music still has that, but it's almost getting a little bit heavy on this album on some of the songs. I really like the way this sounds. They're getting into that sound here. They're not quite as refined as their golden age, as I would say, that starts with Face the Music, but in terms of a proggy concept album, which is just such a cool concept, and some of the guitars and stuff in this are great. The El Dorado just, overture with like El Dorado, the song, the title track, and the finale are just great, all three together. Can't Get It Out of My Head was, I think, their first like single that actually got big. Next to like Showdown and I guess 10538 Overture, but I think those became hits later, if I'm not mistaken. Boy Blue is great. Laredo Tornado, Poor Boy, The Greenwood, Mr. Kingdom, Nobody's Child. I mean, there's not a bad. They are all spectacular songs. Gosh, it's gonna at least be an A album. I love all these songs. The thing is, the only thing that might drag it down a little bit. The only thing that might drag it down a little bit is that if you're going to play songs for people by ELO that they're going to know and get all into, like if you're having people at your house or something, you're going to be playing stuff from like, hell, you might be playing stuff more from these albums even than you are from El Dorado. El Dorado, though, is an album, though, I would like to get it on vinyl at some point. This is an album that I would want to listen to just like all the way through, with a nice glass of wine going on a Friday night, just kind of to myself or to some people that appreciate the more proggier stuff. I think it's fantastic. But again, I got to take all things into account when I rank these. And to be honest, I'm probably not going to be playing this album as much as I am some of these other ones when I'm out with other people. So I have to put it here for just that reason and that reason only. Otherwise, it's in terms of their proggy stuff, it's right up there in the S tier with these, but if you're just looking at it from like ELO's like quintessential sound, I don't know if it's quite there yet. They're almost there, but they're not. They have some of that rockabilly stuff. I don't like the rockabilly stuff quite as much, but it's still, yeah, it's a great album. I can't go. I can't really go off on it. I have every single song on my playlist. That shows you how good it is. So Yeah, it's up there with these four. All four of those are just fantastic. On the third day, which strangely on Spotify is listed as their second album for some reason, and I know it's not. So that's kind of stupid. But I have okay. Now this one, I would say, geez, man, ranking these is hard. I think this album is almost more progressive than this album. Some of the keyboards and stuff, like especially in like Dreaming of 4000 and the Daybreaker, like Dawn of the Daybreaker and all that. I mean, those are just fantastic. And then the Ocean Breakup, King of the Universe, like suite of songs that has Bluebird is Dead, Oh No, Not Susan, New World Rising, and then Ocean Breakup Reprise. That is a fantastic suite. Very progressive. Each song is a little bit different, has different feels, and just. And the orchestra is so good in it. You got Showdown, which is like one of their first hits. And the Hall of the Mountain King, I think, is really cool. I mean, I know other people do that song, but I think they did it quite well. I do have Mama Ma Belle on my playlist. I think that's probably the weakest song of the album, but it's still a good song. So I mean, I'm gonna put it right up here. I think this one's a little bit more refined in terms of using the progressiveness to like actually create a concept album. But if you pick out individual tracks, I think this one was a huge step up from their second album, and I really like going back to this album quite often. So I'm gonna put it up there in A. I think it's really good. In terms of their prog stuff, like if you like are looking for prog ELO, these are the two I would go for. If you're looking for prog elements with a more classic ELO sound, I'd go for these two. If you're looking for upbeat, kind of dancey type hits by ELO that still kind of have elements of the sound, I'd go for Discovery. And that's why they're in the top five. First album, no answer. Well, I have no answer for you where I would put this right now. I mean, 10538 Overture, one of the best songs they have. I like when they've remastered it as time goes by. Taking a sip there. Let's see. I don't have Look at Me Now. I don't remember that song much. Nelly Takes Her Bow. Pretty darn good song. Again, this album is one of their earlier prog albums. It has Roy Wood on it, so there's some horns and stuff in there. They were trying to do something different at the time. They were trying to take what the Beatles were doing and like expanding upon it. I really like the way there's horns and orchestra and just everything in this album. But again, when I listen to the album, it's not quite mixed as well. I think they get better and better as the albums go on. Like ELO 2 is a little bit better than this in terms of the mixing, and then ELO 3, they're really, that and El Dorado, they're really starting to get it down, and then again, I think the songs on this are pretty darn good. I battle at Marston Moor. I don't have that on my playlist. I don't really remember that. First Movement, I actually really like. Mr. Radio's great. Manhattan Rumble. Queen of the Hours is probably one of the best songs on the album. I don't have Whisper in the Night. Again, I think it's a very good album. I'm actually going to put it above Secret Messages. Not as refined as these two albums in terms of sound, but in terms of memorability of the songs and the progginess, I got to put it above them. Good album. Good album. I like listening to, of course, the 10538 Overture probably most of all from the album. But Queen of the Hours and some of these other, like the First Movement and all that, those are great songs that I come back to decently often, actually. So I got to put it at least slightly ahead of these because I don't come back to all the songs on these as much. The ones that I do like from these, I probably listen to more than some of the ones in this, but in terms of the albums themselves, I come back to this one more. So I got to do it like that. But then a New World Record. Yeah. I gotta. I mean, this is between these two albums here, and it's got the proggy elements still, but it's also kind of trying to go towards more of their like classic. I wouldn't really say it's pop. I would just say the classic ELO hit sound. I don't know. You got Tightrope, fantastic. Telephone Rhine, fantastic. Rockaria, which is pretty darn good. There's parts of it like with the lady sing I'm not as crazy about, but so much of it is good. Mission, a world record. A lot of people don't mention that song. I really like that song. It's got like that proggy element to it too, like the story of the alien comes to Earth to try to find anything redeemable about Earth and can't. I mean, just great songs. So Fine is great. Living Thing is great. Above the Clouds is magical. Do ya? No, look, I know that was a Move song. They're redoing it as a cover for ELO. I think it's a better version than the Move song. They've definitely kind of mastered it a little bit more, but it's a good song. It's not my favorite though from the album. And then I like Shangri-La on the album too. I mean, again, all these albums I have every single song on my playlist, so they're all very good. From like Face the Music on there, it's pretty much there's not many songs that I have missing on my playlist, so I'm gonna have to stick with that. And that's it. So now I gotta do a little bit of reorganizing here. That did end up being three per row. Um, so I'm gonna move this up here and this up here, and that should be. Oh, don't want to do that. I think that's fair, right? I mean, Xanadu's not really an ELO album, but it has more ELO songs on it that I listen to than Zoom or Alone in the Universe. So I think that's just how that's going to be. And then, yeah, I feel like this is a good ranking. I wish these two could be higher, to be honest. The first and second album, I think if they had the same sound that they do on these later albums, these could have been top tier albums. They still are. I mean, they're everything from really. I'd say there's not a single. Again, I don't really go back to these very often though. I would say anything from like Calling America here. Or, well, what is that? No, Balance of Power. What is that song called? I mean, what is that album called? Balance of Power. Okay, yeah. Again, I call it the Calling America album. That's all I can remember really from it. Or Heaven Only Knows is decent too. But I mean, yeah, anything from really the first album up to Secret Messages is pretty fire. I mean, you're not going to go wrong with that. Um, then, yeah, the sounds kept getting better. Time is a great album, but again, they're starting to get a little bit more electronic-y, less orchestrally at this point, so I had to put it down here in B. I love the proggy nature of these two albums and the orchestra, and the songs are great. Still very catchy. It gets really catchy up here with these three albums, and they still have elements of this, so that's why they're up here in S. And then Discovery is just a great album in general, but it's starting to move away from this, so it can't quite go up here, but I mean, all the songs are just so catchy. I just love all the catchiness of these songs, and they're just great songs to sit down and listen to. So, yeah, I think this is pretty much my quintessential ranking for ELO. I don't see it any other way. So make sure you comment down below the video. Let me know your ranking or if you think this one's pretty much it. I know I differ from some other people, but hey, I mean, that's why we have all of our own opinions. It's kind of fun to see what each other think, and maybe it makes us think more about these different albums, and maybe we're like, maybe you're right about this one, or maybe I mean, gives us reason to listen to them again. So I kind of like doing these ranking videos. It's fun, and I hope that you've enjoyed watching. So have a nice day or night. It's night for me. It's almost midnight here, but you could be watching this video at 5 a.m. I mean, who knows? So hope you enjoy your day/night, and I will see you in another ranking video, or maybe even a gameplay video. Maybe we'll throw one of those out there some other time. See ya.